Hello and welcome to Buddhist Store Global's weekly news highlight. I'm Dr. Justin Whitaker, Senior Correspondent for BDG. As we are continuing to develop these weekly news highlights, please click subscribe and the thumbs up button if you enjoy them, and offer us your feedback in the comments below. And as always, be sure to check out our website, buddhiststore.net, for more on this story, as well as other news and features about Buddhism around the world. This week, we highlight the news that Buddhist monks are standing in solidarity with protesting Indian farmers as one climate activist has been arrested there. For further context and analysis in a moment, we'll turn to our work from columnist Mayura Choudhari, as well as our senior writer, Raymond. But first, the news. Buddhist monks have bolstered the ranks of tens of thousands of Indian farmers who are locked in a defiant standoff with India's government on the outskirts of Delhi after months of strikes, protests, and demonstrations against the controversial new agricultural reform legislation, which the farmers say threatens their livelihoods. Meanwhile, the arrest on Saturday of the 22-year-old climate activist Disha Ravi over a shared toolkit document to help farmers in their protest has sparked widespread condemnation, with many calling it an attack on free speech and on democracy. Farmers in India have been rallying for months in one of the largest protests yet seen against the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi over 3 laws enacted in September last year that deregulate the sale of crops. The government has insisted that the new legislation will give farmers more freedom, but farmers have expressed concern that the laws will place private buyers in a stronger position in the marketplace that has traditionally been heavily subsidized by the government. The farmers say that the legal reforms that have long protected small landholders in the market will drive down prices for their produce, leaving no safeguards to protect them against takeovers and exploitation by large corporations. While a number of monks, many of whom have strong roots in India's agricultural communities, joined the protesters early in December before the government crackdowns on the protests escalated into violence, more have reportedly arrived following the culmination of Losar, the new year of the Tibetan calendar. Many of the monks are gathered in a dedicated camp set up on the border between Delhi and Uttar Pradesh, vowing not to leave until the farming laws have been repealed. The protests first began in August in the states of Punjab and Haryana. In November, after the government had pushed the new legislation through, farmers marched on New Delhi, where they were met by a heavy-handed police response. This all occurred at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in a country that has to date reported almost 11 million cases and over 150,000 deaths. According to the government, the new legislation is needed to improve on the efficiency of India's sprawling agricultural sector, which represents the livelihoods of some 60% of Indians' 1.3 billion people, but only 16% of the GDP. And while some economists agree that the sector is in need of reform, many have criticized the government's heavy-handed unilateral action in imposing the new legislation with almost no independent consultation. As Buddhist Store Global wrote in 2019, this is not the first major issue faced by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Since his election to office in 2014 and his landslide re-election in 2018, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's grand aspiration to implement an ideological reimagining of Indian citizenship along majoritarian lines, specifically in concordance with the Hindutva understanding of Indic civilization, has largely gone unimpeded. Modi has successfully cast aside the old political certainties of modern India, which were once shaped to varying degrees by the Gandhi-Nehru clans and their governing allies. Thanks to the favor of most media channels and newspapers, along with a slick projection of himself as a priestly figure with the blessings of India's great religions, Buddhism included, Modi has enjoyed smooth sailing until December of 2019, as protests far larger and angrier than the government expected erupted across India, including in major cities such as Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, and New Delhi, in response to 2 controversial citizenship initiatives. Importantly, the government has, since 2015, mobilized a long-term and sustained campaign of Buddhist diplomacy across Asia and domestically through the Vivekananda International Foundation and the International Buddhist Confederation. It has also relentlessly paid fealty to and adopted the discourse of figures of Indian inclusivity such as Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and even the 3rd century BCE Mauryan Emperor Ashoka the Great. Last year, our columnist Mayura Choudhari wrote the incredible feature Revolution and Counterrevolution in Contemporary India, in which she helps us untangle the current political religious issues of India today. She writes that a non-Indian might see Indian history as a recurring conflict between Hindus and Muslims, Mughals versus Marathas, or partitioned India against Pakistan or Bangladesh. The divide and rule policy is blamed on the British, who did use it among Indians, but it originated among the Brahmins, who have used it against indigenous Indians for centuries. Even today, we see Hindus and Muslims being divided up for cynical political ends. Hindus are not monolithic, but a collection of many castes segregated by hierarchy, while many Muslims in India are converts from lower Hindu castes, similar to the Buddhists that converted after 1956 under the leadership of B.R. Ambedkar. Although our Constitution frames freedom of religion as a fundamental right and an individual's choice, actual moves to conversion mostly occur in the so-called lower castes of the caste system, many of whom were treated as untouchables. Thus, during the Mughal period, these untouchables chose Islam. During the British Raj, they chose Christianity. And in modern India, they come to Buddhism in large numbers. In practice, religion and politics have never been separate in Indian history, dating back to the Buddha himself. The Buddha challenged the Vedic Dharma, which was and remains based on social discrimination and hierarchy. Our senior writer, Raymond Lamb, has also written about the question of Buddhism coming home to India. Attending the 6th International Buddhist Conclave in August 2018, Lamb wrote of both the ambitions of Indian authorities to bring Buddhism home to India and the difficulties facing this endeavor. Notably, he wrote that without concerted effort from within India by its Buddhist organizations, India could remain known as a country where Buddhists go to for pilgrimage rather than a country in which Buddhism thrives. Pastoral dimension of local Indian Buddhists, as many foreign delegates at the Round Table noted, remains almost completely absent. It seems, Lamb concluded, that Buddhism is like a child who has left home and is being summoned back as an adult. The child must now be treated like an equal, neither condescended to nor sidelined. And this month, Buddhist monks and many others across the nation are proving these words prophetic, as the Indian government faces increased pressure from sectors who do feel that they are being treated as unequals in their own country. As always, we'll be watching closely to see what develops, and we will be certain to share what we learn with you along the way.